And then he's going to bring us forward
To the current.
To today,
Yeah.
current. And he's got some cool stories to share with us, okay? So pay attention.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
How's everybody doing today? Yeah, it's Friday. Everybody got big plans for the weekend? Fortnite. I love it. I love it. That's a great answer. That is a great answer. So how many people know what this big book is here? You guys probably haven't seen this. Yeah, it is. Good job. So this is a phone book. They used to make these back in the 90s and 80s and well before Google, well before you guys were born. But I got a story to share about this phone book, and I think you guys might appreciate it. So back in 1990, if you can go back that far, all we had was this. We didn't have cell phones. We had a big landline with a cord attached to it, and you just traveled all around your house talking on that phone, and you'd hide in your bedroom on that phone, and it was a pretty cool thing. Your mom would trip over it and get mad at you. So anyway, back then, my birthday was coming up, and my dad said, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday?" And I was 10 years old at the time. And I said, "I want a limousine." And he started laughing, and he's like, "What do you mean a limousine?" I said, "I want a limousine." And he says, "Well, what do you want to do with it?" I said, "I want to drive around down Pine Grove and hang out the sunroof in this limousine." So he said, "Well, if you want a limousine, you have to get a job." And I'm like, "All right, then I'll get a job." So I started raking leaves and shoveling snow and doing all these things to try to get this limousine. And so I saved up like $50, which was like a lot of money back in 1990. And so I started leafing through this book, and inside of this book, if you go to the L section of limousine, they have all these ads in here of like limousine companies. And so I started calling these companies, and I would call them, and they would answer. I'd say, "Yeah, I want to rent a limousine." And they'd say, "Kid, how old are you?" I'd say, "I'm 10. They'd click. They'd hang up. I'm like, shoot. So then I had to call another phone number, and I kept going down this list. I think I called probably 4 or 5 before I finally got somebody that would pay more than 2 seconds attention to me. But anyway, I got through the list, and finally I called a guy after I had multiple hang-ups, okay, people hanging up on me, telling me to call them when I got older. And this guy answered, and he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I want to rent a limousine." And he said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 10. And he says, "Well, we have a 4-hour minimum. It's $50 an hour, and we can help you out." And I said, "Well, I only have $50. And I said, "Can I just get like an hour?" And he's like, "Sure." He's like, "You know what? I'll do that for you." So he's like, "I'll show up." I said, "What time?" He says, "This time, this day." I said, "Cool." So I call all my friends, and I said, "Hey, you got to come over to my birthday because I'm having a party at my house. I'm going to have this cake and ice cream, and this limousine's coming." And all my friends didn't believe me. They're like, "There's no way. There's no way you got a limousine coming." But no, it's coming. The guy's coming. So on my birthday, my dad comes out with this cake, and he has this cake, and on the picture, on the front of the cake is this picture of the limousine he had made at Meyer. And he said, "Here's your limousine." And I said, "No, my limousine's coming later." And he started laughing at me, and he's like, "There's no way." And so this limousine pulls up, and my dad's mouth just drops. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Where did you get this limousine from?" I said, "I got a job like you told me to get." And so the limousine shows up. The guy takes us on this ride down Pine Grove. We're all hanging out of the sunroof, me and all my friends. I have probably 15 of my friends there. And it was just a really cool experience. But what I learned from that, and I didn't realize until later in life, was that moment was a very defining moment in my life where I realized I could do anything that I put my mind to. And then I've also realized, like, you're dealing with rejection, because you're making these calls and they're hanging up on you, right? So you're dealing with rejection from making those phone calls. You're learning how to get a job, to get some of the things that you may want in life that your parents can't provide to you. And so it was that moment that just kind of made me realize later that I can do anything I put my mind to. And so it was a really cool moment for me. And I've reflected back on that story throughout my career and life of, hey, you know what, when something seems like too big to get or a goal that's too large to achieve, I always remember, hey, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. So it was a really cool moment for me. And hopefully you guys will have moments like that throughout your life, that you can reflect back on and really pay attention to those moments when they happen. So this is a picture of me at 10 with a little more hair in the limousine. If you guys want to pass that around, you can take a look at it. So that's my story, how I got to where I am today. I started off in high school. Obviously, after I graduated high school, my dad said, "Hey, you got to work or go to school." So I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to college." I went to Macomb Community College for like a year and a half, and I wanted to do computer information systems because at that time computers were like all the rage, and so I thought I want to do something with computers. And as I started going to that class, the instructor said, hey, there's continuous education with this career field you're going into, and so you're always going to have to go to school. And I'm like, I don't like going to school. So I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. So I ended up quitting college, and my dad's like, well, if you're going to not go to school, you have to work. And so I ended up getting a job, actually, with Jeremy at the time at a car dealership. And so we started selling cars at Kaywood Auto, and I was there for 13 years and kind of worked my way up into that ecosystem from being a basically just a car salesman into like the internet manager position, and then from there into the used car manager position, which is where I last held that position before I left. From there, I had a buddy of mine who kept wanting me to get into real estate. So he says, hey, you should get into real estate. You're going to be really good at it. And I said, all right, you know what, I'll give it a whirl. So I ended up quitting the job at the dealership, and I started selling houses for a company called Bauer Reno. And my buddy at the time, his name was Joe Bauer. He became one of the mentors for me at that company and kind of showed me the ins and outs of real estate, buying homes, flipping houses, and also rental, dealing with rental homes and stuff. So Joe's been very instrumental in my career. And that's where I've been ever since. I did also start a property management company, so now we also manage properties for other landlords and stuff like that. And that's what I'm doing now. So kind of full circle, going from the guy renting a limousine into a sales job, selling cars, and now into selling houses. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah.
All right, you guys have any questions on your own after listening to Mark's story before we get into the questions that we kind of pre-wrote? Anybody? Wyatt? No? All right. So we'll just kind of go down the list a little bit here, but one, I never got to hear that story before. That's actually cool. I think I actually started to like tear up a little bit because I'm thinking of my own kids and how many times I've told them, hey, I don't care if you go to school or what, but after high school, but you gotta at least work. And I think as a parent, like that's like, you want them to just do better for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right? So like that, work or school, but you gotta do something. You're not gonna sit around here and play Fortnite. So would you say that your first job was raking and shoveling, or would you go forward to like your first job after high school? Would you say?
So I would say my first job was kind of just hustling around the neighborhood, shoveling snow when it snowed, raking leaves, cutting grass around the neighborhood. But then also I had a paper route, I think, when I was 14 or so. And then my first real job was actually at McDonald's. So that was my first real job.
Who else's first job was at McDonald's?
Yeah, it's a great first job. You learn a lot of skills there. You learn how to deal with people, which is a major life skill. Communication skills, obviously. You learn how to deal with people that aren't very nice sometimes. So McDonald's is a really good first job for sure.
Who else did we talk about that had McDonald's as a first job? Remember? Was it Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
Sawyer, why don't you go ahead and ask number 2?
What inspired you to do what you're doing now?
So my friend, Joe Bauer, is who kind of inspired me to get into real estate. He's been a mentor of mine for many, many years, and he's been very successful in his own career. He started off selling real estate, then he got into buying rental houses. He owns 100 plus homes, so he does very, very well. Yeah.
I don't know if I remember it correctly or not, but did you own rentals before you went into real estate, or did you go into real estate and then start accumulating rentals?
So when I was working at the dealership, so when I first started at the dealership, I was 100% commission. So anything that I sold, that's how I got paid. If I didn't sell anything, I didn't get paid. And then as I went into the management role at the dealership, became the used car manager, I was on a salary plus commission based on what my other salespeople did. So when I was going to transition into real estate, I go, man, I'm used to this salary now. I need to have some sort of income coming in when I get into real estate because I've never sold a house before. It's a 100% commission job, and I really need to have either some savings saved up or something that's going to create some income for me. So before I left the dealership, I bought 4 houses and rental homes, and then they provided me a little bit of income when I first started in real estate.
So just for the class, the process of starting your business, I would say would be acquiring the 4 rentals, right? I mean,
It was.
That kind of projected you into what you're doing now and the success that you have now.
It was, and then if you want to become a real estate agent, you have to take a 40-hour class and pass a state test. So that's kind of the process of becoming an agent.
Haley, you want to ask number 5?
Do you think college is necessary?
So do I think college is necessary? I think getting a higher education will always provide value to you, but I don't think that it's the only path to take, okay? And I say that because if you're going to go into a career such as an attorney or anything in the medical field, then of course you do need to have a higher education for that. Those are required things for that. But other fields like trade schools, sales, construction, heavy equipment operating, that sort of thing, that requires more of like a practical experience, which could be just as effective as college, in my opinion. At the end of the day, what you have to consider is your career goals and also your learning style, because everybody learns different. Like for me, I didn't like being in the college class and always having to be in school for that computer information degree. So college was not for me. I'm more of a hands-on person. Show me one time and then I can do it type of thing. So that's what you have to figure out if college is right for you.
Michael, you want to ask number 6?
Number 6. What are your thoughts on the American dream?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on the American dream, and I think that is actually different for everyone, because I think if you don't live in America, your thought of the American dream could be very different than you or mine, okay? But I think traditionally that idea is that anyone, regardless of your background, could achieve success through working hard and determination. I think that's kind of the thought behind the American dream, but I do believe that the American dream is evolving a little bit. And I think that today it's about finding personal fulfillment and happiness, if I had to put my definition of the American dream out there. And I think that could look different for you and him, right? Or her. So that could all look different for everybody. But the modern day American dream is about creating a life where you have the freedom to do what you love doing and spending time with the people that you love spending time with. And I think that would be my definition of the American dream. And not only the definition of the American dream, but also the definition of wealth. I think the definition of wealth is having the time and freedom to do what you love to do with the people you love to do it with.
Yeah, one of the things I said at the beginning of class, and I don't know if you guys remember it, was a millionaire isn't somebody who spends $1 million, it's somebody who has $1 million. There's a wealth concept there, and a lot of people think that, oh, you drive a nice car, oh, they got a big house, they must be wealthy. Some people are just living beyond their means, and someday that, the piper might come calling that back.
100%, yeah. Definitely stay within your means if you can.
Sam, you want to read number 7?
Sure. What would you go back in time to tell your younger self if you could?
Time. So for me, and I'll talk about time a lot today because it's our most valuable asset, in my opinion. But I would tell myself, don't waste time. And I think you have to make sure you're spending time with the people who deserve it, and make sure that you're not wasting time. And I think it's so easy to waste time. Maybe instead of doing your chores today, you're going to play Fortnite and you'll get to them tomorrow. You've wasted time, and then you don't know what happens to what problems tomorrow could bring, right? And tomorrow always is going to bring a new set of problems or issues that need to happen. So I would say just don't waste time and make sure you're spending your time intentionally.
Cool. Nathan, you want to read number 8? How many different jobs have you had in your life?
I've had at least 10 jobs in my lifetime. And I think that that's also important to figure out where you want to go in life, right? Because you may start off thinking, you know what, like when I was younger, I wanted to be an attorney. Okay, well, I'm far from an attorney. But I think having different jobs and experiencing different things has helped me kind of lead that path to where I am today. Yeah, yep.
I think me and Mark, at the age that we're at, we know a ton of people who they went off to college because they kind of picked a path and they put a lot of time, effort, money into going down that path, and then they never actually worked in that field. And by the time they got there, they were like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
And they got to rethink life. So like Mark said, it's really important to analyze what you're doing and what's important. Try things out and figure out what you really want to do. So.
Yeah.
Jordan, you want to read number 9?
Tell me
So as far as employees, I don't really have any quote-unquote employees, but I do manage 25 agents at my office. And so I have 25 different personalities to manage and 25 different set of problems to take care of each day.
Sawyer, you want to do number 10?
Were you afraid to be a business owner?
Yes, definitely. There's definitely some fears. But honestly, my fear of failing has been my constant motivator in life. So I've always had this idea that I have to work harder than the next person. And that fear of failing has really been my motivator throughout life. It's really been a driving force to make me work harder, plan better, and being very intentional with my time.
Cool. All right, we'll skip. Obviously, you did fears. So, May, do you want to do number 12?
What is the best part of owning your own business?
I think the freedom and the flexibility, because not only can I do what I love doing, but it allows me to do it when I want to do it. So as a real estate agent, we don't have set hours. We kind of work when we need to or when we have to, and I do love that flexibility.
Shay, you want to ask the follow-up?
What is the worst part of owning your own business?
I think the constant pressure and responsibility. It requires a lot of time and commitment to owning a business, and it's very difficult sometimes to find a work-life balance. And to be honest with you, especially when it comes to like personal life versus business life, and a lot of times your personal life will suffer because you're spending so much time on your business.
Wyatt, you want to do number 14?
Did you have to research before you started?
Yeah, I talked to my mentor, Joe, quite a bit and asked him a ton of questions. And it was kind of one of those things where, again, I learned by example. And I'm like, Joe, I would ask him this and ask him that. And finally, he was just like, you just have to do it, and then I can show you what I mean. Because none of the stuff that I'm telling you is going to make sense. And then once I started doing it, it made a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right. Kira, you want to skip 15 and go right to 16?
Family and friends fit into your business?
Incredibly important, because you need a good support system. And so the friends that you surround yourself with, obviously your family is your family. They're going to always support you, hopefully. But your friends and the people that you surround yourself with can really impact the trajectory of your life. And I've seen people who have gotten caught up in the wrong crowds, and they've went a way that they shouldn't have went, and I think they probably regret that. So definitely make sure that you surround yourself with a good support system and people that are going to support you.
All right, so I'll do 17. Mark?
Yeah.
Just thinking back over your life, obviously I know where you've come from, what you've done. When was it that you knew, like, okay, I got this?
I think for me, it was about 3 years into real estate when I thought, okay, I really know what I'm doing now. I've got a good flow of business coming in. I'm starting to see some residual customers, coming back to me. They're referring their family and friends to me and that sort of thing. And then at that point, I started to get a little bit of my time back because I was putting so much effort into making this a go that I finally could say, hey, if I don't want to work Saturday, I can actually take it off now and be okay with that. So.
I found the same thing. So, like, what's interesting about Mark and I is we both have that beginnings in sales. And I think for the car business, that 2 to 3 year mark is a turning point in sales where you go either the people who aren't going to make it, they find a different job where somebody's going to just give them a paycheck and they just get paid hourly.
Absolutely.
Or somebody's going to be successful. In my line of work in the financial world, same thing. About the 3 year mark, it was like, oh man, I understand what's going on. I know how to help people. I know how to get that return business. And Mark is finding exactly the same thing. It's really interesting that 3 year mark is it's the make or break. If people are not going to make it 3 years, they're going to check out and they're going to find something else to do. So.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think is the number one skill to being a business owner?
Adaptability. Being able to adapt to change, being able to pivot. I use that word quite a bit, especially in my business. It's always changing. It's always evolving. And if you can't adapt to those changes, stay in front of those changes, pivot when you need to be, then you won't be successful. I mean, if you look at, I use Apple as an example because everybody knows the iPhone. How many times have they pivoted, throughout their career? They started off in a garage at somebody's house. Now they have this massive building, but they've gone in a few different directions to pivot to adapt to the current climate of the environment. So I think being able to adapt and pivot is crucial, for sure. I would say number 2 would be strategic thinking and patience. I think sometimes we get into a job and we think we want everything to happen yesterday, and when it doesn't, we get frustrated. So I think, just having some patience, thinking very strategically, being very intentional in your thinking will help you be successful.
All right, last question. Okay, so you're to this point today. I think as every business owner finds success, they have to have a dream for what's the next step, right? So what's your future look like? What are you working towards?
So my goal in starting any career that I was in was always to retire at 50. And so for me, it's just trying to get things lined up for that to happen. I'm 44 currently. And what does retirement look like? I don't think I will ever be the person to just sit down and hang out at the beach all day, but I definitely want to do a lot more traveling. I want to stay busy doing the work that I want to do, so I'll never fully retire from real estate. I'll still, kind of work with family and friends, Jeremy or whoever. But I think just having that ability, if a customer calls me on a Tuesday and says, hey, can you show me this house, to say, you know what, I don't want to, I don't have to, is going to be like really powerful for me. So that's kind of where I want my life to be, is retired at 50, where you can still enjoy things. You can still go hiking if you want. You can still go on a mountain, whatever. But I think that a lot of times people work for their whole life, right? And then they retire at 60, and then they die. And it's like, well, that's no fun. I want to be able to have fun in my life. I want to be able to enjoy it with the people I want to enjoy it with. I think that's kind of the ultimate goal for me.
And if anybody has parents who are 60, they're not going to die tomorrow. He's just joking.
Right.
All right, one last question for you, Mark.
Yeah.
Back to the limo.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so no other 10-year-old that I know just says, I'm going to go get a job and get a limo. Something had to spark the thought. What kicked that up? What made a 10-year-old Mark Ellis want to go get a limo?
So that's a good question. When I was younger, my mom said I used to always want to dress up. I owned one suit, this suit right here. This was my only suit that I owned. We were poor. And so she said, you'd always want to wear your church suit and to the playground and get it dirty. And I had to always tell you to take it off. And she said, do you know why you always wanted to do that? And I said, because to me, I equated people who dressed up as people who had money, and we didn't have any money. So I thought, well, if I dressed up, then maybe I can get the money. It was just kind of a weird thought at 10. So the limo for me was like, now I have some money, even though I didn't have any money. So it's like, I'm in this limousine now, right? I'm 10. And I equate that with everybody who had money were in limousines. And so it's like, for that brief moment in time, I felt like I had money even though we didn't. And so that was kind of how that
So did you go
started.
driving down Pine Grove with your head out
I
the
did.
window?
We hung out the sunroof, all of my friends. We drove down Pine Grove. It was only an hour. We only got an hour of time. But an interesting story about that, though, and I'll share this with you, is the guy that's in this picture, okay, he still runs an airport shuttle service where he takes people to the airport from town, and he still drives me to this day to the airport. So, yeah, so I use him to go to the airport quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You guys have
Any other questions?
Anything? Cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Hey, I
it.
appreciate you guys having me. Jeremy's a really good teacher, and you're in good hands with him, okay? If you guys have any questions or need anything, Jeremy knows how to get a hold of me.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yep, have a great day. Thank you. Let's get out of here.
Thanks, guys. I don't think you have to sign out of the office.
Okay, I'll check with them.
Okay.
Yeah. If you need something, call me.
Cool.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Have a great day, guys. Have a great weekend, kids. Thanks.